We're now past the halfway point of the Gilded Age Season 3, and following that shocking ending where it seemed like George basically threatened Bertha with the prospect of a divorce due to the way that she'd been acting, this next episode looks like it's going to continue looking at all corners of the Russell struggles. We've got Bertha visiting England to help Gladys, George struggling financially to invest in the railroad project that he's put so much into, and Marian not taking a liking to Larry being in the Haymarket. As well as that, we've got Peggy realizing that Dr. Kirkland's mother might not change and ever accept her for who she is, and Oscar finally confronting Maud Beaton after all of this time. It just sounds like it's getting better and better, right? So with that, let's break down the trailer, and I'll also give my theories and predictions on what I think could happen next. So let's get into it. Here is the Gilded Age Season 3 Episode 6 trailer explained. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. So the trailer for the next episode opened up with JP Morgan and George meeting with one another for the first time since Morgan pulled out of the deal because he didn't think it was financially viable to be a part of the project. Morgan said, "Good of you to come all this way," and George responded and said, "I had a summon from JP Morgan. I didn't think I had a choice," and Morgan then responded and said, "You didn't." Now, I've been wondering where it could be that they're at, because in later life it was said that despite spending his early years in Hartford in Connecticut, Morgan spent most of his time in New York, and this definitely doesn't look like New York. However, it is said that JP Morgan spent 3 months of every year in England because he had houses in London, so I wonder if with Bertha being in England, this could have also been used as a way for George to get over there too, especially if he'd been summoned. This could be the case, and it would be interesting if it was. However, it could also just be outside of the city of New York too. Seeing as though the real JP Morgan did have 2 homes in England, I feel it could be. Later on in the trailer, we saw JP Morgan saying how the entirety of the railroad industry was on the verge of collapse, so I feel like we could see George still pushing to build the railroad that he's after, which he feels will revolutionize and connect the United States. But JP Morgan is going to be reluctant to invest because the industry is so volatile at the moment and it isn't showing any signs of strength. George has already invested so much into the project, and with him later looking in a panicked state and saying, "Everything I've built is on the verge of collapse," he's fearful of how his life could change if this project doesn't prove to be a success. It's now too late for him to just simply walk away. The next part of the trailer then saw Marian speaking with Oscar and saying, "Tell me where Larry was the night that he saw Maud Beaton." Oscar responded and said how it didn't matter, but Marian believed that it did. In Larry's eyes, he was out having fun with the boys in the Haymarket, which seems to be a place where men would go to drink, gamble, meet women, and also spend time with one another. A place that your brand new fiancé might not necessarily want you to be because of the bad influences that could be surrounding you. Larry did Oscar a solid in telling him about Maud Beaton, and it seems like Oscar is going to return the favour by not revealing where Larry was. However, I think Marian will likely put 2 and 2 together after realising what Maud Beaton was doing, and realise that he was at the Haymarket. Because of this, I think we could see Marian start to question if Larry is the person for her, and she might feel as though he broke her trust. After all, in the Weeks Ahead trailer, she did say that she didn't think Larry was the person that she originally thought he was. Personally, I think it's a little bit dramatic as he didn't do anything, nor was there any sign of him going to be with a woman. But maybe Marian might not like the objectification of women in those places, which I could understand. So I now wonder if Larry might be in for a shocking surprise when he gets back from Arizona, which it seems like we will see him in the next episode as there was a passing shot of him there. Following this, we saw Oscar go to the Haymarket and appear to enter a room that Maud Beaton was in. The music fell silent for this part of the trailer, and Oscar said, "I want to know what happened to the money." For those who can't remember, Maud Beaton was in on the scam that was taking place in Season 2, which led Oscar to lose his family's wealth and fortune. So now, with her working at the Haymarket, one would have to imagine that the money is long gone. In fact, it makes us all want to know the same thing as Oscar. Where did the money go? Personally, I'm going to guess that she never actually got to see a dime of it. I think that the people that she was in on the scam with took the money and just tossed her to the side, and that's why she's resorted to working there. Because if she had even a fraction of that fortune, then there'd be no need for her to be there. So I think she was betrayed in the deal, just like how she betrayed Oscar. It seems like karma definitely went back around and paid more to visit. So this is a conversation and an interaction that I'm really looking forward to seeing play out. When it came to Peggy Scott's inclusion in this episode, we saw that she was meeting with her mother, and she was having a conversation where she said, "I'm too ambitious, too busy, too committed, and I'm not the right colour." As she said this, we saw that it cut to a scene of Mrs. Kirkland looking over with her poisonous gaze, so it implied that Peggy was talking about her, not that we needed any hint whatsoever that she was. Peggy has a deep sense of care for Dr. Kirkland, but the type of woman that she is something that Mrs. Kirkland just can't seem to get her head around, and all Peggy is being met with is resistance. The frustrating thing is, Dr. Kirkland isn't sticking up for Peggy in the slightest, and he's just letting her and her family face a barrage of abuse every time his mother meets with them. So I think it's going to get to a point where Peggy will be at breaking point and she'll have to decide what to do. The decision on if she wants to stick with him or if she wants to walk away, because she can't keep facing this abuse with no defense whatsoever. The show has definitely educated me on colorism during this time period. It's hard to watch, and it's the barrage of abuse that Peggy is facing and the passive-aggressive nature of it, which is just disgusting. So I hope Peggy gets out of that situation soon. Mrs. Kirkland is also going to be digging for dirt on Peggy, so it seems like she's going to find out about her previous marriage, which is going to be the latest piece of ammunition for her to use against her. After this, we then saw Jack holding Mrs. Bauer close to him and saying, "This house is the closest thing to a home that I've ever known." I believe in this instance, he's probably going to be speaking with Agnes or Ada, and the hug with Mrs. Bauer was used to support the point because it showed that there was love between all of them. With Agnes most likely finding out how much money Jack made, she won't want him to be her footman and to be working underneath them when he has all of that money. So one would imagine that she'd look to get rid of him, which is why he's speaking this line, because to him, working for the Forte household isn't for him to just earn money. It's more than that. It's about the connections that he has with those that he worked with and the family that he's built. So he fears that if he were to leave, then he'd lose the people that he holds closest to his heart. So I feel like there's going to be a difficult road ahead for Jack before the end of the season. When George said, "Everything I've built is on the verge of collapse," we saw that it cut to Clay, who was grinning, and he had a smirk on his face. So I wonder if Clay has been up to some scheming, or maybe he could have leaked a story to the press about George as revenge for him firing him in the previous episode, as George's reputation being tarnished could definitely hurt him. Then we got to the juiciest part of the trailer, Bertha now being in England. Gladys said the line, "All his life he's followed his sister's orders, why make trouble?" This was about the Duke and how he's not the person of authority that she thought he'd be. Rather, he doesn't do anything without his sister's say-so. Bertha responded and said, "If you want to cook an omelette, you have to learn to break a few eggs." Bertha is definitely there to cause trouble and to put Lady Sarah in her place. She didn't marry off her daughter to the Duke for Gladys to be under the thumb of his sister that he himself is afraid of. So I think she's going to start the process of making her daughter as ruthless as what she is, and during that time I imagine she's going to stir the pot and be just as frosty as what Lady Sarah is. This is drama that I can't wait to see, because we're basically seeing two of the coldest people in the show having a frost-off, and I think I know who's going to win. Bertha, obviously. And then with that, the trailer came to a close. The next episode looks like it's definitely going to be following a theme of confrontation being at the core of it across all of the characters. For example, Bertha and Sarah, Peggy and Mrs. Kirkland, Oscar and Maud Beaton, George and JP Morgan, and Marian and Larry. So it's definitely going to be an episode full of fireworks. So, there you have it, the Gilded Age Season 3 Episode 6 trailer explained.